AITA for quietly gathering evidence after my wife locked me out and moved her boyfriend in? I'm Jacob, 37. And until a few months ago, I was still the kind of husband who bought Kara's favorite coffee creamer even when we hadn't had a real conversation in 3 days. We had been married for 9 years. That was long enough to build a life out of automatic payments, grocery habits, inside jokes, old furniture, and plans we kept saying we would get to next year. It was also long enough for me to make the mistake of believing that history could hold two people together after respect started leaking out. I wasn't blind. I knew something in our marriage had gone cold. Kara, 35, had become more private over the previous year. She took calls in the backyard, even when it was raining. She turned her phone face down whenever I entered the room. Passwords on accounts we had both used for years suddenly changed. When I asked about it, she said, "Not every part of my life needs your permission." I didn't ask for permission, I told her. I asked why I can't access the account that pays our utilities. She rolled her eyes and said she would fix it later. She never did. The first time I noticed a real problem with our money, our emergency savings had dropped by more than $4,000 in 1 month. We had agreed that account was for medical bills, major repairs, or a job loss. It was not supposed to move without a conversation. I asked Kara about it while we were cleaning up after dinner. She kept rinsing the same plate under the faucet and said, "I needed some breathing room." What does that mean? It means I'm tired of explaining every purchase to you. I'm not asking where you went for lunch. I'm asking why our emergency savings dropped by 4 figures. She shut off the water harder than necessary. "This is exactly what I mean," she said. "Everything with you feels like an audit." That word stayed with me. Audit. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't accusing her of anything. I had opened our banking app, seen a large drop, and asked a basic question. But Kara had started taking ordinary concerns and giving them darker names. Questions became control. Disagreement became intimidation. Silence became punishment. At first, I thought we were just communicating badly. Then Victor started appearing in her stories. He was someone from a friend group, the first time she mentioned him. A few weeks later, he was someone who actually listens. Then he became the person she compared me to whenever we argued. "Victor listens without making me feel interrogated," she told me one night. That's an interesting way to describe me asking what happened to our money. Her expression changed immediately. There you go again. I wanted to ask whether she was having an affair. The question was sitting right behind my teeth. But I didn't have proof, and I knew how the conversation would go. She would deny it, accuse me of being paranoid, and spend the next week treating my suspicion as the real betrayal. So I watched. Not secretly, not obsessively. I simply stopped filling in the blanks for her. I noticed that she had started leaving the house after dinner with vague explanations. I noticed new clothes that never appeared on our credit card. I noticed she had become unusually protective of Tuesday evenings. I noticed that whenever Victor's name came up, she defended him before I had criticized him. Then Kara's younger sister, Tessa, began contacting me about my own marriage. The first message came while I was at the grocery store. "Tessa, Kara needs space. Please stop pressuring her." Me. "If Kara wants to discuss our marriage, she can talk to me." Tessa. "Maybe she would if you didn't make everything feel like a court case." I stood beside a freezer case reading that line twice. Tessa was 32 and had always been loyal to Kara. I understood that. What I didn't understand was why she suddenly believed she knew what happened inside our home. When I asked Kara why her sister was messaging me, she barely looked up from her phone. I needed someone to talk to. Talking to her is one thing. Sending her to manage me is another. She's not managing you. She's telling me how to behave in my own marriage. Kara sighed. "This is why I can't talk to you." That answer became her escape hatch. Whenever a conversation got close to something specific, she turned my asking into the reason she could not answer. I still tried. I suggested counseling. She said she was not ready. I suggested separate accounts for personal spending and a clear contribution to shared bills. She said that proved I was preparing to abandon her. I asked whether she still wanted to be married. She said, "I don't know what I want when you put me on the spot." That should have told me more than it did. Around that time, my father needed surgery. It was not an emergency, but his recovery was going to be rough for the first few days. I planned to stay with him, help with meals, keep track of medication, and make sure he did not try to do too much too soon. The night before I left, I packed a small bag in our bedroom while Kara sat on the edge of the bed scrolling through her phone. I'll probably be back by Sunday, I said. Take the time you need. Her voice was softer than it had been in weeks. I looked at her. Are we okay? She paused just long enough to make me notice. We don't have to do this tonight. I'm not trying to start a fight. I know. She smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. Just focus on your dad. Don't worry about the house. I thought it was a peace offering. The next morning, I kissed her on the forehead before I left. She did not turn away, but she did not look at me either. That was the last time I walked out of my own front door with a key that still worked. My father's surgery went well. The first 2 days were mostly medication alarms, bland food, and arguments about whether he was allowed to carry laundry. By the third afternoon, he was sleeping in his recliner while I sat at the kitchen table answering a few messages. At 2:14 p.m., Tessa sent me a photo. It showed my front door. Several pages had been taped across the center panel. I could see my name, Kara's name, and the words petition and dissolution. Under the photo, Tessa wrote. She said not to come back angry. Don't make this harder. I stared at the screen until the words stopped looking like language. I zoomed in on the picture. The papers were crooked. One corner had already started peeling away from the door. I could see a page with proposed terms, but not enough to read them. I typed. Why are you sending this instead of Kara? Tessa did not answer. I called Kara. It rang twice and went to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. Then she texted. You know why? My hands started shaking. Not dramatically, just enough that I had to put the phone down on the table. Before I could reply, a banking notification appeared. A large transfer had been made from our emergency savings. I opened the banking app. Most of the account was gone. The transfer had been initiated that morning, hours before Tessa sent the picture and before Kara told me anything. I checked our joint checking account next. There had been several recent charges I did not recognize. A locksmith, a moving supply store, a furniture delivery service, and a large electronic payment routed through an account I had never seen before. That was the moment my anger got quiet. I took screenshots of every transaction. I downloaded the activity as a PDF. I checked the mortgage account and confirmed the next automatic payment was still scheduled. Then I opened the doorbell camera app. There had been motion at 1:52 p.m. The clip loaded. Victor walked up my driveway carrying 2 duffel bags and a cardboard box. He had a backpack over one shoulder. He looked directly at the camera, then glanced away with a half smile. Kara came into frame behind him. She was laughing. She unlocked the front door, held it open, and stepped aside so he could enter. He did not look like a visitor. He looked like someone moving in. Seeing him walk into my house hurt more than seeing the papers. For about 30 seconds, I stopped thinking clearly. I grabbed my keys from the counter. I pictured driving back, demanding entry, confronting both of them, and forcing Kara to look me in the face. Then my phone rang. It was Liam, one of my closest friends. I had texted him the photo of the door without adding any explanation. What happened? He asked. I told him. He was quiet for a second. Where are you right now? At my dad's. Stay there. She changed the locks. I heard you. She moved him into my house. I heard that too. I'm going back. No, you're not. I almost laughed. You don't get to decide that. No, but I get to remind you that this looks coordinated. Papers on the door. Her sister warning you not to come back angry. A camera pointed at the entrance. Her boyfriend walking in with luggage. Jacob, do not give her the clip she wants. That sentence probably saved me thousands of dollars and years of regret. I sat back down. The pieces were too perfectly timed. Kara had not simply left while I was away. She had changed the locks, removed the money, posted papers where I would find them, placed Victor in the house, and used Tessa to warn me about my own reaction. She expected me to come home furious. Maybe she needed me to. I opened Kara's message again. You know why? I typed one word. Understood. Then I put my phone on the table and started making calls. The first call was to the bank. I reported the sudden transfer, asked what pending activity could be stopped, and requested notes on the account reflecting that the withdrawal was disputed. The representative explained what could and could not be restricted on jointly held funds. I did not ask them to block grocery purchases or household bills. I did ask them to freeze unusual pending transfers and remove Kara as an authorized user from a separate credit card that was only in my name. We can document the dispute and restrict certain pending activity, the representative said. Please document everything. I wrote down the time, the representative's name, and the confirmation number. Next, I downloaded every doorbell clip from the previous week. The garage camera showed more. 2 men I did not recognize had carried boxes out through the side door that morning. One box held tools from my workbench. Another appeared to contain files from a cabinet where I kept tax records, warranties, and personal documents. I started an itemized list. Tools. Document box. 2 suitcases. Clothing from the bedroom closet. A watch case from the dresser. A small lockbox. I was not building a revenge board. I was building a timeline. That evening, Kara called 7 times. I did not answer. Her 8th attempt came with a voicemail. Jacob, your little banking stunt is exactly why I had to do this. You cannot control me anymore. I'm safe, and you need to stay away from the house until you can act rationally. I saved it. Then Tessa texted again. You freezing things makes you look worse. I replied. All communication about the house, money, or divorce needs to be in writing. She sent back. Wow. I did not answer. The next morning, I met with an attorney Liam recommended. I brought my laptop, printed bank records, screenshots, the photo of the door, and a written timeline. The attorney read through the documents slowly. These were taped to your door? She asked. Yes. You have not been formally served? No. Did you sign anything? No. She separated the pages into 2 stacks. These are not final divorce papers. Some are draft pleadings. Some are in signed copies. This proposed settlement is not an order, and it is certainly not something you should sign without review. I felt pressure leave my chest for the first time since the photo arrived. Kara had made it look as though the divorce was already in motion, the terms were settled, and I was the only person refusing to accept reality. The attorney tapped 1 page. This language gives her almost exclusive use of the home and asks you to assume a disproportionate share of several debts. It also describes you as having voluntarily left the residence. I left to help my father after surgery. Then we document that. Do not go there angry. Do not argue through relatives. Preserve everything. She changed the locks while I was away. Then we document that too. We do not turn it into a scene. She advised me to communicate in writing, avoid direct confrontation, preserve records, and request a formal accounting of the money. She also explained that the home, the withdrawn funds, and Victor's occupancy would all be handled through the actual legal process, not through whatever Kara had taped to the door. Before I left, she said, these papers are not the ending. They are a pressure tactic. That was the first time I breathed normally all day. Kara mistook my silence for surrender. Within 48 hours, her version of the marriage had spread through her family. Her mother, Gloria, called me while I was making coffee for my father. I don't know what happened to you, Jacob, she said, but this is not the man Kara married. You haven't asked what happened. You've only told me what she said. Because she's terrified. Then she should have no problem with the timeline being clear. A good husband does not make his wife feel like she has to escape. A good family asks for the whole story before choosing a villain. She made a sharp sound, somewhere between a scoff and a sigh. Kara says you abandoned her emotionally for years. Kara changed the locks while I was caring for my father. She said she had no choice. She had enough choices to hire a locksmith, move another man into the house, and empty the emergency account before telling me. There was a pause. Then Gloria said, you always reduce everything to money. I ended the call. I did not block her. I saved the voicemail she left 10 minutes later, in which she accused me of punishing Kara and warned me that everyone would see what kind of man I really was. Tessa kept texting too. Just sign and let her be happy. You're dragging this out because you can't stand losing control. Victor makes her feel safe. I replied once. I'm not discussing this through you. Put anything relevant in writing. She responded. That's all you ever say now. She was right. It was all I said because every phone call was becoming material for a story Kara had written before I knew I was in it. The next piece of evidence came from Victor himself. He posted a photo that reached me through a mutual acquaintance. It showed a glass of whiskey on the nightstand in what he called, finally, a peaceful place. The bedroom was mine. My watch case was visible on the dresser behind him. So was a framed photo of Kara and me that had been turned face down. He had not removed my life. He had simply rotated it out of view. I saved the image and sent it to my attorney. Then I checked the garage footage again. That morning, Victor had loaded another box into his vehicle. When he lifted it, the bottom opened slightly, and I could see the blue handles of several tools I had listed as missing. My attorney sent Kara a formal preservation letter. It required her to stop disposing of or moving marital property, account for the emergency funds, limit non-essential spending from joint accounts, and address Victor's continued presence in the home. Kara called me less than an hour after receiving it. I let it ring. She called again. I answered on the third attempt because my attorney had said I could state the boundary once. "You're trying to scare me with lawyers now?" Kara said before I could speak. "No. You froze my card. I removed you as an authorized user from a card in my name after you transferred most of our savings. You're proving everything I told people. I'm not discussing this over the phone. You don't get to dictate how we communicate. Put it in writing. You are unbelievable. No, I'm refusing to keep playing by rules you change whenever they help you." She hung up. Her email arrived 12 minutes later. She accused me of financial abuse, claimed the money was necessary for her immediate safety, and said Victor was staying temporarily because she was afraid to be alone. My attorney asked for receipts. Kara sent none. Over the next week, we received statements from the joint accounts and records connected to the transfer. Most of the money had not gone toward groceries, housing, or legal fees. Some had paid the locksmith and moving costs. Some had covered new furniture. A large portion had moved through another account and then been used to pay down a debt tied to Victor. When my attorney showed me the transaction chain, I thought I had misunderstood it. Kara hadn't just left me for Victor, I said. She made our emergency fund useful to him. That is what the records suggest, the attorney replied. We will request a full accounting. The discovery changed something in me. Until then, a small part of me had still been trying to reconcile the woman on the doorbell footage with the person I had married. I kept thinking there must have been panic, confusion, or some explanation that made her choices less deliberate. But the money had moved before the papers went on the door. The locks had changed before I was warned not to return. Victor's debt had been paid before Kara told anyone she needed protection. This was not an impulsive exit. It was a plan. The clearest proof came from a voicemail Kara accidentally sent to Tessa, and that Tessa later forwarded during an argument. At the time, Tessa still believed she was helping her sister. She sent me the recording with the message. This is what she was dealing with. She was scared you would show up. I played it. Kara's voice came first. If he shows up, just let him. Don't argue with him. Let him show everyone who he really is. Then Victor laughed in the background. He'll lose it when he sees my stuff there. Kara replied, exactly. Then nobody can say I overreacted. The recording ended. I listened to it 3 times. Tessa had sent it as proof that Kara feared me. What it actually proved was that Kara expected a reaction and had arranged the conditions to produce one. I wrote back. Thank you. Please preserve the original. Tessa did not respond for several hours. Then she sent. What do you mean? I answered. Ask Kara why she needed me to show everyone anything. After that, Tessa went quiet. A few days later, Kara proposed a family dinner. Her email said she wanted a calm conversation with witnesses so Jacob cannot twist what happens. Gloria would be there. Tessa would be there. 2 other relatives would also attend. Kara said Victor might come because he had been directly affected by Jacob's behavior. My attorney advised me not to negotiate terms at dinner and not to hand over complete evidence beyond what was necessary. Liam knew where I would be and offered to wait nearby, but I told him that was not necessary. I agreed to the dinner for one reason. Kara had spent weeks using her family as an audience. I wanted that audience to hear the timeline before her version hardened into permanent fact. The dinner was at Gloria's house. When I arrived, the dining table was already set. There was a roast in the center, untouched. Kara sat beside Victor. Tessa sat across from them, looking tired. Gloria stood near the kitchen doorway with her arms folded. No one offered me a drink. I took the empty chair at the end of the table, and placed a thin stack of printed documents beside my plate. Kara looked at them and gave a sad little smile. You brought paperwork to dinner. You asked for both sides. I asked for a conversation. Then let's have one. Gloria sat down. I want everyone to stay calm, she said, looking only at me. I almost laughed, but I did not. Kara began softly. She said our marriage had been lonely for years. She said I monitored spending, questioned her friendships, and made every disagreement feel threatening. She said she had tried to leave privately, but I responded by freezing money and involving attorneys. I had to protect myself because I didn't know what he would do, she said. Victor placed a hand over hers. Tessa looked at me. You could have handled this with some dignity. I said nothing. Kara continued. She said I had abandoned the house, abandoned her emotionally, and then tried to punish her for moving on. Gloria shook her head. Then why are you still doing this? She asked me. Why are you still trying to punish her? I waited until Kara said, he left. I finally accepted that he had left, and now he wants to control how I rebuild. Then I put down my glass. Do you want to tell them the truth? I asked, or should I? The room went still. Kara leaned back. Go ahead, she said. I have nothing to hide. I took the first page from my stack. This is the locksmith receipt. The locks were changed at 10:18 on the morning I was helping my father recover from surgery. I placed the second page beside it. This is the bank alert. Most of the emergency fund was transferred at 11:06. Then the photo of the papers. Tessa sent me this at 2:14. I looked at Kara. You told everyone I abandoned the house. The locks were changed before I was told not to come back. Kara's face tightened. You had already left. For 3 days. To care for my father. You knew the marriage was over. No, I knew the marriage was strained. You did not tell me it was over. You taped draft papers to the door after changing the locks. They were legal papers. They were in signed drafts and a proposed settlement. They were not final orders, and I had not been formally served. Gloria looked at Kara. Kara. Kara shook her head. He's playing with technicalities. No, I said. I'm correcting the story. I opened the doorbell clip on my phone and placed it on the table. Victor appeared on the screen carrying bags. Kara followed him, laughing, and held open the door. The clip ended. Victor shrugged. That proves I went inside. I opened the garage footage. This time, he was carrying boxes through the side door. That shows you moving property, I said. It was her property. Some of it was mine. You can't prove that. I slid the itemized list across the table, along with still images from the footage and the photo he had posted from my bedroom. You were bragging from a room where my name was still on the bills. Victor's expression changed. Kara said, he was staying because I was afraid. Then explain why you expected me to react before I knew he was there. I printed the transcript of the voicemail and set it in front of Tessa. She read the first lines, then stopped. Her face lost color. Kara, she said quietly, did you ask me to text him because you thought he'd react? Kara looked at her sister. I asked you to warn him. You said he was dangerous. I said I didn't know what he would do. But in this message, you say to let him show everyone who he really is. Victor leaned forward. This is being twisted. I looked at him. You said I would lose it when I saw your stuff. His jaw tightened. You were listening to private conversations? Tessa sent the recording. Tessa stared at the table. I thought it proved she was scared, she said. It proved she was waiting, I replied. Kara's voice rose for the first time. You were always angry, Jacob. Maybe not loud, but cold. You made me feel watched. You don't get to drain our account and call my questions abuse. That money was mine too. Some of it was, which is why your attorney can explain the accounting. I removed the final set of statements. Victor shifted in his chair. I pointed to the transaction trail. This amount moved out of our emergency savings, through another account, and then toward a balance connected to Victor. Victor shook his head immediately. That has nothing to do with me. Then you should be very comfortable explaining why our emergency fund helped pay your debt. I didn't know where it came from. Kara turned toward him. Victor. I said I didn't know. It was the first time I saw distance between them. Gloria looked sick. You used shared money to pay his debt? She asked. Kara's eyes filled with tears. It wasn't like that. What was it like? Tessa asked. Kara looked around the table, searching for the version of the room she had expected. He needed help. I was going to replace it. With what? I asked. The settlement you wanted me to sign before I spoke to an attorney? I placed the proposed settlement on the table. You told everyone I was refusing to accept a finished divorce. You had not even started the process honestly. You wanted me to panic, believe the house and money were already gone, and sign away more than I understood. Gloria turned to me. Was this necessary? She asked. Did you need to embarrass her like this in front of everyone? I looked at her. She humiliated me with a performance. I answered with proof. Kara started crying. Not loudly. She pressed a napkin under one eye and shook her head as though I had betrayed her by making the facts visible. I wanted out, she said. I knew you would make it impossible. I offered counseling. I offered separate finances. I asked whether you still wanted the marriage. You never listened. I listened long enough to understand that you did not just want to leave. You wanted to leave as the victim, with me too angry and confused to challenge the story. That's not fair. No, it isn't. The room was silent. I gathered the pages, but left copies of the timestamps and transaction records on the table. I didn't come here to beg for my marriage, I said. I'm not fighting for the version of it you already threw away. I'm fighting for the truth. Then I stood. Tessa looked up at me. Jacob, wait. I paused. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. I left without shouting, insulting Kara, or looking at Victor again. The legal consequences were slower than the dinner and much less dramatic, but they mattered more. There was no instant courtroom victory. There were letters, disclosures, disputed expenses, inventory lists, and mediation sessions that lasted longer than they should have. My attorney requested a complete accounting of the emergency funds. We documented the lock change, the timing of the withdrawal, Victor's occupancy, the missing property, and the attempted use of draft documents as pressure. Kara's attorney stopped calling the papers on the door final. The money routed toward Victor became part of the financial dispute. So did the furniture purchases, moving costs, and non-essential charges made before Kara informed me she wanted a divorce. A temporary agreement limited unusual spending from marital accounts and required both of us to preserve property. Victor left the house shortly afterward. Kara said it was temporary. It was not. He had enjoyed stepping into my life when it looked comfortable and easy. He was less interested once attorneys started asking where the money came from and whether he had possession of property that was not his. Several of my tools were returned through Kara's attorney's office. My document box appeared in the garage with files missing from their original order, but still present. The watch case was returned empty, though the watch itself was later accounted for in mediation. Every object became a line on a list. Every transaction needed a date. Every accusation had to stand beside evidence. That was where Kara's story weakened. It worked best in emotional conversations, where she could describe how she felt and treat those feelings as proof of what I had done. It worked less well when placed next to timestamps. Tessa called me 2 weeks after the dinner. I owe you an apology, she said. I stayed quiet. I thought I was helping her get away from you. You helped her build a story before you checked whether it was true. I know. No, I don't think you did know. She took a breath. She told me you controlled every dollar. She said you tracked her and that she was afraid you would show up screaming. And you never asked me. I thought asking you would warn you. That should bother you. It does. Her apology was awkward and incomplete, but it was real enough for me to accept without pretending everything was fine. I'm not asking you to choose me over your sister, I said. I'm asking you not to carry accusations for anyone again without checking them. I understand. I did not tell her it was okay. It was not. Gloria never gave me a clean apology. She called once and said, I wish all of this had been handled privately. I replied, it was private until Kara made accusations public inside the family. She was hurting. So was I. You always sound so calm. That doesn't mean nothing happened to me. She went quiet. After that, she stopped accusing me. For Gloria, that was as close to an admission as I was going to get. Kara's late call came after Victor left, and after a mediation session where her attorney warned her that the missing funds would not simply disappear into the overall settlement. It was almost 11 at night. I should not have answered, but I did. She was crying. I didn't think you'd actually fight back, she said. I sat on the edge of the bed in the short-term rental where I had been staying. That was the mistake. I thought you would understand that I was done. You could have told me you were done. You would have tried to talk me out of it. I might have tried to understand. That is not the same as trapping you. You don't know what it felt like being married to you. And you don't get to rewrite what you did because you were unhappy. She sniffed. Victor's gone. I said nothing. He said this was too much. That sounds like a conversation for you and Victor. Do you even care? I care that you took our money, locked me out, moved him in, and tried to provoke me into becoming evidence for your story. I was scared. No, you were prepared. That's cruel. It's documented. She cried harder. For 9 years, that sound would have pulled me toward her. I would have softened my voice, apologized for whatever part was mine, and tried to repair the moment before understanding what had broken it. That night, I did not. I didn't know how else to leave, she said. You file honestly. You have the conversation. You separate money through the proper process. You do not manufacture danger because it gives you leverage. I'm sorry. I believe you're sorry about the consequences. That's not fair. Maybe not, but it's where we are. There was a long silence. Then she asked, Is there any chance we can stop this? No. She made a small, broken sound. I closed my eyes. I'm continuing with the divorce, I said. All communication about finances, property, or settlement goes through writing or the attorneys. You really don't feel anything anymore. I feel enough to know I cannot go back. She whispered my name. I ended the call. The divorce continued. The final financial outcome was not a fantasy where I kept everything and Kara walked away with nothing. We had been married 9 years. Our finances were intertwined. The house was jointly tied to us, and the process required compromise. But the emergency fund was accounted for. The money used for Victor did not vanish into a vague claim of living expenses. The property was inventoried. The timeline was preserved. Kara did not get to use my trip to help my father as proof that I had abandoned the home. She did not get to present draft documents as finished orders. She did not get to turn my decision to protect the remaining money into the beginning of the story when her withdrawal had happened first. Most importantly, I stopped explaining myself to people committed to misunderstanding me. Liam once asked whether I regretted exposing everything at the family dinner. I told him the truth. Part of me had wanted revenge. I had imagined Kara's face when everyone saw the footage. I had imagined Victor shrinking when the debt payment appeared on paper. I had wanted them to feel, for one evening, the humiliation they had handed me. But that was not why I went. I went because private lies had already become public accusations. Silence would not have kept the peace. It would only have protected the person who controlled the story. Maybe some people will think I was too cold. Maybe they will say I should have kept it private, let Kara leave, and accepted that marriages end badly. But Kara was free to end the marriage. She was not free to drain our savings, erase me from my home, move another man into our bedroom, and build a false version of me to justify it. I lost the marriage. I did not lose my name, my financial boundaries, or my grip on what actually happened. Kara thought silence meant permission. It did not. It meant I was listening long enough to know exactly when to speak. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.